Just in, Ripple expands its blockchain education push in APAC committing another $5 million dollars in funding through its university blockchain research initiative across 6 countries. Talk about innovating, talk about giving back. This is a perfect example, and this is many times they have done in the past. So again, really gives us a better understanding that these guys are not playing around. But welcome back to the Crypto ZX channel, to the XRP holders. Appreciate you guys as always for sticking around and showing so much love. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. As we are starting to see the market coiling up, you're going to see more and more people, turning into the biggest moon boys they have been. And it's quite interesting to see because, during times where you do see a lot of uncertainty, majority of these people are nowhere to be seen. So, shout out to you guys if you've been here from the beginning. Love you all. You guys deserve the absolute best. But looking across the board, we're seeing a sea of, green, a lot of excitement within the crypto markets. And I think, we have seen nothing as of now, potentially what we could see based off of, dominance taking into consideration. But looking across the board, we're seeing a lot of green. XRP up about 2.2% with the price currently sitting at $2.29. We're down in Bitcoin comparative as to be expected, down about 1.3%. The valuation at 134.5 billion and the 24-hour trading volume approaching $3 billion. But before we get into any further, as always, just a quick disclaimer, anything on this channel is not financial advice. Always do your own due diligence and research when you are investing in crypto. So just in, South Korea's ruling party introduces legislation to allow stablecoins. The proposed digital asset Basic Act would enable South Korean companies with over $368,000 in capital to issue stable coins, which again would be a complete game changer. And if they don't issue, they can start using stable coins. And of course, this is where USD once again is a perfect example that could potentially be used, within countries and, companies. So very, very big news, of course, coming out today. And speaking about ETF flows, around 3,650 Bitcoin and around 21,000 Ethereum were bought on June 9th. And again, as far as inflows are concerned, we're looking at Ethereum really showing a lot of interesting things when it comes to the inflow. And I think, we shouldn't really be overlooking that because Ethereum is that benchmark when we are always analyzing, a potential altcoin season. And as of now, this marks 16th day in a row for trading days where you're seeing inflows actually coming for ETH ETF, which really shows you that there is definitely demand for Ethereum. So is this really a time where, we do see an altcoin season really occurring? We're about to, finish off the first half of the year. This is the second half indeed going to be quite bullish for the markets. As of now, history is pretty much aligning, and we'll see what happens. Do let me know in the comments what you guys personally think. And of course, with all these ETF conversations happening for multiple different assets, indexes that are being filed for, I think, if these were to be approved, I think that would be a pivotal movement. But look at this. Blockchain-based remittance using stablecoins are already gaining traction in the US-Mexico corridor, with notable examples showcasing their potential to transform cross-border payments. Bitso, a cryptocurrency exchange headquartered in Mexico, has partnered with Ripple to facilitate remittance flows between the US and Mexico using RippleNet's on-demand liquidity, which is of course known as ODL, which leverages XRP, a blockchain-based digital asset, as a bridge currency. This partnership has processed billions in remittances, offering users lower fees and near instant transaction times compared to traditional methods. Another example is Tether USDT, the most widely used stablecoin in the world, which is becoming more increasingly, I think, less and less being used. I think RLUSD will overshine USDC, even USDT, because of the fact that it has that regulatory compliance behind it. And of course, that gives more countries and also more people even confidence to use that rather than another stablecoin that they're skeptical upon. And I'm not really going to sit here and talk about USDT. I'm sure you guys know a lot about that already. But moving forward, you can see a lot of people have got good things to say about SEC Chair Paul Atkins' speech, which we discussed earlier this morning. If you missed it, look at this. This speech by new SEC Chair Paul Atkins is a thing of beauty. So encouraging to see the proactive embrace of innovation. And of course, if you missed, he said the right to have self-custody of one of the private property is foundational American value that should not disappear when one logs onto the internet. Very, very interesting, and really shows you which direction this new SEC under the Trump administration is going. But moving forward, look at this. This is something very interesting. What are things that don't contribute to the actual price? First and foremost, OTC, because this is private transaction between two parties with an agreed upon price. They could buy, sell at any price, and it has zero effect on the public spot price. And this is something I've talked to you guys about countless of times. OTC is something that we never factor in, but we need to start factoring in, because that is where the big players really come on board. So with that said, let's take a look at what's happening with this. And this is something very, very interesting here. Shout out to Smoke. So Bitcoin and Ethereum will remain outside, while Ripple and XRP will move within the system. Bitcoin and Ethereum are often excluded from regulatory frameworks due to the absence of an identifiable issuer. So they limit their integration with banks, institutions, and public infrastructure. Ripple and XRP are built for the opposition. They were built for the system. They align with compliance, work within the legal rails, and are positioned for adoption by the financial system. So the question of whether a given cryptocurrency will be recognized as a part of the formal payment system will largely depend on how it is meant to be used in the given jurisdiction. Bitcoin and Ethereum often fall outside, while Ripple and XRP often fall within the system. This is because formal payment systems are generally closed loop systems. If some cryptocurrencies can be integrated into the formal payment system, they can then be used as a settlement vehicle, not as a medium of exchange. And this has been documented very, very well put. But let's take a look at what's happening with the dominance. Please ignore these drawings that I have done, but you are starting to see the dominance kind of seeing a little bit of a pullback. But in a grand scheme of things, 64.55% is quite a high dominance regardless. If you're looking at BTC, on the other hand, let me kind of get rid of this mess that I've drawn, but we did see that close above 110,000. We're seeing a little bit of a minor pullback, as to be expected. So far so good. Previous all-time high from the beginning of this year is playing as a level of support for us, which is of course really nice to see. As far as XRP is concerned, pretty much still ranging where we were just a few hours back. We did get rejected at that key range. Once again, you guys need to understand this is a very important key level to break out of, because that really opens the door for us to retest $2.47 and then the 23.6, and then after that the rest is history. So far so good. Love what I'm seeing here. Let me know down below what you guys think. If you have not subscribed, or you're waiting for, hit that red subscribe button, and we'll see you later with Crypto ZX, and peace out.